For a tool that's been around a long time, there sure are a lot of variations on locking pliers, so let's talk about it a little bit. Hi, and welcome back to the Messy Garage. I'm going to try to make this as fast as possible, but stick with me because locking pliers are a lot more complicated than I expected. I've had this set of lock jaws, which are kind of an adjustable tension. They'll lock on to multiple thicknesses of things, and you just kind of have an adjustment here for the tension, but I haven't found them super great. I do like how this release works as opposed to the traditional style you'll see here in a sec, but I don't know. I hated what the traditional crescent was. I thought that's what looks like this, but then I realized I was probably the victim of bad tools. So let's talk about what the alternatives were. All right, so I'd be remiss, and by the way, I went out and kind of overdid it, as I'm wont to do on occasion. Kind of looking, I was surprised at how broad the options were. Everything from the original OG made in USA, Peterson, which later became Irwin, we'll talk about that, to the more recent, but recently deceased also, Malco, made in USA product, to a variety of others. Milwaukee is kind of my little bit of an alternative design, and two sort of classic styles from Harbor Freight, the cheap and cheerful Pittsburgh and the Bremen, sort of their better class of tool. So, all of these have anti-rust. All of them talk about how they have, prevention for the most common failure point, which is that collar right there. And if you watch the Project Farm review, that is one of the really key areas of failure for a lot of these guys. So, people do different things. There's a little bit of weld or braze in there. This one's kind of interlocking. This one, who knows what it has under the plastic. Sort of just a little tack weld or something in there. And we'll talk about Malco's approach here in just a minute. But it's not just that durability that we're kind of talking about. So usability and things like that, I went searching. So let's talk about some of the things I came across here. So first up was the classic Vice Grip branded original. This is why it's called Vice Grip. It's kind of like Q-tip. It's a brand name, not a type of tool. Locking pliers is what these are. And Vice Grip was the Peterson brand. Peterson, made in DeWitt, Nebraska. It's not just made in USA, made in Nebraska. And we'll talk about Malco in a second, but that's kind of the heritage. So, these are all going to be 7-inch, by the way. The classic, when you come in, you tighten down on something. That one's not super tight, actually. Then you press that release to let it go. And the tighter you are, the harder it is, and this is what my objection to the old one was, is the harder it is to get that out one-handed. Now, the classic weighs about 332 grams, 11.7 ounces. These have been made by Irwin since 1993 when they bought the company, but have been moved to China, the production there. So if you want a made in USA version, you got to go to eBay or something like that, and they're generally going to be, $12 or so plus $8 or so shipping by and large. So, a pretty skinny little, but nicely knurled. So it's about 5/8 of an inch outside round and 1/4 inch here, thick. Nicely knurled, but not a lot of beef to get hold of to crank it, and no help for you here. So that is kind of what it is. So what Malco did was they reinvented in the same factory in, hopefully that comes through, in DeWitt, Nebraska, and did it with some improvements. So you can even see pretty clearly here, beefier rivets, a strengthening rivet here, you know, beefier spring, beefier metal, nice chrome covering, so it makes it feel wonderful. It's really comfy to use. Much more aggressive knurling, thicker knob, so this is about 2/3 of an inch and 1/3 of an inch thick, you know, so 16.4 millimeters and 8.75 for the metric crew. And you know, this thing is just, it feels, you know, it's a real tool, man. I mean, you can just feel it. And if you want the best thing, I think they did make this for Snap-on for a while. I think Snap-on's moved this to an offshore under Blue Point now, but in any case, you know, this is the Cadillac, man, the best you can get. And it's nice. The problem is, on Amazon it's $40, up until recently, where Harry Epstein was bringing home, I think the last of these run, they were $40-something, which is what I paid for this, and like 42. And you know, that's tough. That's money. Now the last batch is coming in at $30 a pair, and you know, you pay shipping from Harry Epstein, but you know, there's lots of cool things to buy there, so just save on shipping and buy other stuff. But these are going away because there's just not enough people who want to buy these at this price. A lot of people who run, you know, locking pliers run lots of them because they're holding things together to weld or whatever. And you know, at $40 a pop, you know, that's a lot of luxury. I guess I'll say it that way. And unfortunately, a lot of people agreed, and you know, they're going back out of business on these. Malco is still around, but the DeWitt plant has already closed, I believe, or is closing imminently. And that'll be the end of this for a while, if not forever. So what else is out there? I mean, oh, by the way, just a couple other quick notes, come to think of it. You know, this is fully solid piece of metal. So if you watch the Project Farm video, you know, this doesn't have that weak spot. So you're going to have to, you know, it has to be the threads. This is super hard metal. Like, this thing wins. But, you know, it's a tough price. It does have the, well, it's funny. It is a 1/4 inch hex bolt. So SAE, made in USA, right? Or a sloppy 6mm hex wrench. And I tell you, you know, I barely have any SAE left in my garage, and I know that makes me weird in a lot of tool communities, but what I work on is all metric. I have very little SAE. I just was lucky that an old set of hex wrenches I had happened to be around still. But 6 is okay, as long as you're not really cranking on it. And to be honest, I don't think I'll be using it that way much. So, you know, by the way, lifetime warranty on these, but I don't know how they're going to fill the warranty, because at some point it's going to have to, they're going to run out. And then I don't know what they'll do. So, but I don't think that's going to likely be a problem. They're beefy. So the next thing was this Milwaukee product. And I'll tell you, you know, it's actually, I forgot to do weights here. The classic, like I said, is, I think I did say 332 grams, 11.7 ounces, 354.5 grams, or 12.5 ounces. You know, and then these Milwaukee's wander in portly at 401 grams, so 14 and a little over 14, like 14 and a sixth or so ounces. And they're also kind of sort of auto adjusting, not really. That's kind of the beauty of the things I'm moving away from, is they did auto lock. But you see how kind of crooked this thing is? You can, by the way, crank this down. There's no hex or 1/4 inch like you'll see here in a second, but you run a screwdriver through there and you can tighten it with that. But the more you do that, the more pronounced this gets, by the way, and that seems kind of uncool. So not loving the Milwaukees, if I'm honest. So what's next? Next comes up, I went to, for the original thing that had me looking for these things, I wandered into Harbor Freight and I saw this Pittsburgh 7-inch for $5. And it's 280 grams, or a little under 10 ounces, 9.9 ounces. And you can just feel there's not a lot going on here for quality. It does, you know, bite on here. The one thing that's kind of funny here, and no help to crank down, no biggie, but has kind of this, instead of the, you know, the style, the classic style like this, where you know, press that, which can be really hard when it's under load. This one is more what I'll call a trigger style release. So you just pull up there, and that's pretty cool. For $5, it's a lifetime warranty just like all the rest. But manifestly, I mean, they're putting extra rivets because I think it's so lightly built it would come apart anyway. Don't get this for anything heavy. But if you need a lot of things to lightly clamp together, not break the bank, for $5, not bad. But wow, you know, not a lot. And then I looked over, you know, like up, and saw these. This is, you know, in the better tier in Harbor Freight, the Bremen. And the Bremen is really nice. Now, it's a very classic style. You know, it has this kind of pinch release. It has a 1/4-inch square drive, so you get your ratchet or a little breaker bar or something like that to crank this down. And I would say it's shaped well. It feels pretty good. It's not sloppy. That's the thing about this guy. He is really sloppy. Like this is not sloppy. And of course, the Malco. Very, very little going on here of what I would refer to as slop. And it even feels better what little there is. So, you know, and it's $9 now. I'm pretty sure it was $8 when I bought it a little while back. So that's a lot of choices, man. And the question is, what would I buy again? So I think one of the best answers is go find a classic on eBay. You know, if you need to crank it, then that's going to be a little bit of a thing without that assist. But this knurling feels good. You could probably certainly get a pair of pliers or something on it. You know, these came in filthy dirty. I spent a lot of time, you know, but I got a pair of them basically for what I saw most of, you know, single 7 inches for. So what I'm getting about this guy has been through a lot. he's lived a life, man. And, you know, the chrome's coming apart, and he's done work, but he still works fine. Now his teeth I had to go in with a file and try to reestablish the teeth a bit, and you know, there's weld on the jaws. I mean, I think that's pretty cool, but by and large, these are going to be $20 or so, 12 plus shipping of $8 usually. So, you know, it's money. It's not crazy money. If you want the absolute best thing, get the Malco while you can. $30 at Harry Epstein, still 40 something shipped, though, I will say, on Amazon. And probably the last you'll see of Made in USA. You know, these will go the way of the dodo, just like these did. And weirdly from the same plant, which is kind of crazy to think about. You know, but if you want kind of bang for the buck, I would skip the Milwaukee and I would get the Bremen. Seems decently built. You can clearly see, you know, beefier spring, thicker metal. You know, it's similarly heavy to the classic. Very non-sloppy. Decent teeth. I should probably have been showing the teeth, but you know, some have a little bit of tip detail. This just gets slightly finer teeth at the tip. Some have, if you'll see, like the classic guys are kind of like that, but the Malcos have actually a little bit of a, you know, kind of almost a knurl there at the tip for some really fine grip. You know, these bits are just lucky to have anything. But, you know, brand new, bang for the buck at, you know, $9. It's hard to beat that. If you want something better, you know, that won't break the bank, look for the best condition pair of these you can find on eBay. Or, you know, like I said, total up some other things, brass brushes and whatever other cool stuff you want, and grab the Malco while you still can. Actually, the first time I got these thin face, but these, it's a really shallow face as opposed to these guys. These are gone now, I believe. I would skip these unless you just are going to break them and not worry about it. Although I do like this pinch style. I have to admit, I really would love the Bremens more, and they'd maybe be my first recommendation if they had that pinch style release, because it's good ergonomics in my opinion. So, what do we got? There's kind of the three winners. You know, best balance, just look for a good one. Spend the money if you don't ever want to have to worry about the quality of the tool, and you don't have to worry a little bit about it if you ever break it, but God almighty, if you break it, you're working. And, you know, best combination of quality and price is, as often is, the Bremen from Harbor Freight. But those are the three rock stars. Now, of course, Proto and other guys do make theirs. A lot of guys make them in Spain or Taiwan. Lots of Taiwan and Spain that are all very nice, and I would encourage you to go to the Project Farm shootout, but this is my own little kind of shootout. I did go out and get a 10 and another 7 to run as my regular kit, and I'll put this, you know, I don't know, some of these in the travel kit, probably this guy too, and you know, those will be what I run when I'm not worried about losing or whatever, and you know, I'll run these boys as my primaries in the messy garage. So if you like this kind of content, please feel free to subscribe. Your comments are always appreciated, and always stay messy.